Hi, for the next topic is, for this topic we discuss about the phases involved in the conduct of polygraph test. So there are 4 phases involved in the conduct of polygraph test. The first one is initial interview, second is pre-test interview, third is actual test, and the fourth one is post-test interview. So what is initial interview? So when we say initial interview, this refers to the gathering of information. It refers to the investigator will gather information pertaining on the facts under investigation, pertaining on the information about the subject, and those information will be submitted to the polygraph examiner, or the polygraph examiner will gather information, and because those information will be used in the formulation of question or test question, considering that polygraph examination is a type of examination wherein the person will be asked a random questions wherein it is only answerable by yes or no. So how it will be conducted? So this is usually conducted by the investigator handling the case, or the polygraph examiner who has given brief but significant details of the case, and it is designed to obtain a pertinent information necessary for the conduct of the test. So test questions are prepared by the polygraph examiner based on the facts and information. So, yan. So, the investigator and case should brief the examiner on the facts pertaining to, first, is the background information, especially previous police records and verified facts which the subject denies. Another information could be related to the amount of money or specific article stolen if it talks about thief or robbery. Third is exact type, make of firearm, weapons, or tools used in the commission of crime if there is an evidences found at the crime scene, because those evidence could be used in the formulation of questions, such as we call that one evidence connecting question. And another is exact place, date, and time when the crime committed. So that's also another information that need to be gathered and to be given by the polygraph examiner. Another is unusual aspect of the offense, or any odd or strange or obscene acts committed at the crime scene. Another is known facts pertaining to the suspect's actions and movements immediately preceding or after the incident. Another is facts indicating a connection between victims, suspects, and witnesses. Another is unpublicized facts of the offense known only by the victim, the offender, and the investigator itself. And another is the result of the laboratory tests conducted, like the DNA, the blood type, the firearm identification, and the like. So those information should be given by the investigator to the polygraph examiner, or the polygraph examiner should have those information, because this information are used in the formulation of question. Okay, so pretest. Of course, after initial interview, we have the pretest interview. So what is pretest interview? So pretest interview, it will be done in the polygraph examination room. So in other words, the subject will go to the place wherein the polygraph examination will be conducted. But then during pretest, the polygraph examiner will the polygraph examiner will condition or prepare the subject for the actual polygraph test. So in other words, during the mere purpose of this test or test is to prepare or to make the subject condition in the actual examination. So usually this pretest interview will be done for 20 to 30 minutes. So during this stage, the subject will be explained on his rights as stipulated in the 1987 Constitution Bills of Rights. Okay, so if you can still remember that one, which is include the right to have counsel, the right against self-incrimination, the right to know the accusations against himself, and so on and so forth. So other than explaining the rights of the person, that is also the time wherein the polygraph examiner will ask a consent from the subject that he will allow the polygraph examiner to conduct such polygraph examination, because in polygraph examination you cannot force the person to undergo such examination unless he give his consent. Okay, as well as not just to ask consent, but to gather some personal data. And of course, pretest interview will also be done, or the reason of this pretest interview will also determine if the subject is mentally, physically, psychologically prepared to undergo the test. So how to determine if the person is mentally, physically, and psychologically prepared? So, of course, first and foremost, these are the following considerations that will be taken into account. First, the polygraph examiner need to know if the subject refrained from smoking at least 2 hours prior to the test. So, it is said that the patient should avoid taking medication for at least 2 days prior to the examination. The subject should not be hungry. The subject must refrain from consuming alcoholic beverages for at least 12 hours prior to the actual test. And the subject should not be suffering from physical or emotional abuse. So another is that the subject should be calmed down and relaxed. If the subject is female, see to it that that she is not pregnant or she doesn't have her menstruation. So if that's the case, polygraph examination will not be undertaken. So they will wait until manganak siya o kaya mawala iyahang menstruation. The subject should not wear tight apparels or clothing, as this may cause interference in the test results. And last but not the least, the subject should at least have 5 hours of sleep prior to the examination. So before the actual test, appraisal, obtains consent, take notes of some personal data, advise the involvement of the case, evaluate psychological preparedness, basin na siya piatiti siya, or there's a problem of psychologically, determine the subject's suitability to undergo the test, such as determine if the subject doesn't have any violation, or yung take consideration, nag-comply ba ato. Okay, actual test. So, actual test, this is the time wherein the component parts of the polygraph machine will be installed in the body of the subject. So, pasabot, i-attach ang katong mga parts sa lawas sa subject. And that also the time wherein the questioning process begin. Okay? So, questioning process will begin until the removal of the component parts. That's the actual test. So after the actual test, we'll have the post-test interview. Usually, interview is conducted when the subject indicates innocent response while interrogation is undertaken. But then if the person is deceptive, or there is a symptom of deception during the actual test, then interrogation will be done. Interrogation will be done so that the examiner will obtain admission or confession during this post-test interview. After such, the subject, when innocent, is cordially released in thanks extended by the examiner for his or her consideration and cooperation. So that would be all. That's for the phases of polygraph examination. Thank you and God bless.